Welcome to Shot Callers eSports. It is quarterfinals time at Worlds. First quarterfinals underway this morning. An all LCK matchup. A little early for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're so tired, right? Because we were up at
oh my gosh,
4 in the morning to watch these games. Luckily, you know, it seemed like it flew by. Right?
Seemed like it flew by. Time flies when you're having fun.
That's what they say.
Yeah, obviously, people outside of this match are excited to see two of the top contending teams go against each other so early, face themselves, knock someone out, make it easier for the rest of the bracket.
Yeah, it's not great if you're one of these LCK teams because you're definitely probably in the top 4, and one of you guys is going to get knocked out early. But yeah, in terms of matchups, they saved probably the closest one for first. You know, that's a good saying too.
You know, get the hype going right away.
But of course, you have to save the Chinese teams for the weekend.
Yes, because in case you didn't know, Worlds is in China.
Oh, wow, that's why it's been so late.
Yeah, it's not North American time. But Longzhu, one of the heavy favorites, probably the heavy favorite to take the whole tournament, and Samsung struggled a bit in that group stage, got convincingly 2-0'd by RNG. Let's jump right into game 1 here, because that makes the most sense probably. Start with game 1.
Oh, look, Longzhu versus Samsung.
They got a fancy little opening there. Look at this pick ban. We got Jax for Khan in the top lane.
And going up against Kennen for Cuvée. That's an interesting matchup. We have not seen that this tournament. And of course, another Malzahar from Crown, mixing up that champion.
Yeah, you know, definitely some interesting picks there. No Lulu, no Janna.
Hey.
You got a Thresh in there, a Rakan, some actual engages, and fancy camera work by Riot.
T-Tours. Mom, get the camera.
Oh, there it is. Talking about that Malzahar here, not a very good start for Crown. He's going to get first-blooded solo killed by BDD in there, and he's not happy about that. He was down 40 CS early on in this game. Ambition would help get some of that back with him there. Way to press our Crown. Good job.
Yeah, good job. And BDD is just, you know, staying way too far forward. Tried to get the kill, but eventually drew the tower aggro with that as well. And that backfired on him. He played a little more aggressive than we're used to seeing from him, and then Ambition kept it going, taking it to the top lane for Cuvée, but it might be another turnaround.
Khan 1v2 in a gank, you never want to see that. But he had his flash burned earlier, so he couldn't flash for that last auto, and Ambition gives him the little smackdown. He was really active early getting Samsung into this one.
Yeah, that Poro snag with the killing blow, good stuff there.
And then, you know, face check the Fog of War, eat a hook too, but that's the tank they're focusing.
Yeah, you can't focus the tank. Even BDD throwing the ultimate on that Sejuani. Prey would eventually pick up the kill, and Ambition would drop, and Longzhu keeps chasing.
Yeah, and the Longzhu, I mean, early on here, but here comes Cuvée with the flash ultimate on that Kennen. That was probably his best Kennen ultimate of the game. We'll see later. Some of the other ones not so great, but get a couple of kills there. It's actually a pretty even trade for them there. Khan grabs one there, but here comes Ruler. He's gonna get the reset. Go for Jarvan too. Blast Cone.
Blast Cone. No fun. Tristana for Ruler was massive.
And it was a recurring theme with that pick that we'll get to. Here's Longzhu going for that Infernal. Khan actually secures it over the smite, but there's a landed Sejuani ult on Prey. Good night.
Yeah, Prey trailing behind his teammates, and they left him to die.
He actually had his ult up there too. So
yeah, just didn't see it from the fog of the dragon.
There's another Sejuani ult landing onto Thresh, but that's a flash ult by BDD on to Core JJ. He had some aggressive flashes in this game.
Yeah, but he would eventually also pick up Ruler with his E and Cuvée. There's one of those Kennen ults that like pretty much whiffed, but it still kind of helped zone him away. But again, Longzhu would come out of this team fight. Okay. Yeah,
this Jax is getting pretty fed here, and that is actually a different play. It looks like the exact same play on the Thresh, but it's actually a different one. Another whiffed Kennen ult there, and Longzhu looks to come out ahead on this fight, but BDD decides that he's not done with this fight.
Yeah, and again, BDD, you don't usually see him being this aggressive. Usually he's a bit more calculated, but he gets that stun on Crown, goes all in for it, does get the kill, but puts his team out of position.
Yeah, and then basically, I mean, Samsung's able to play off of that. Ruler gets a couple of resets. They get a couple kill advantages, and that would lead to a Baron for Samsung. Cuvé's loving it. Crown is also loving on that one. Yeah, just uncharacteristic aggression there by, what's his name, BDD. And look at this CS. Crown was down 40 CS early in this game, and now later on, he's 15 ahead of BDD. I don't know how that happened.
I mean, it's just BDD overextending and Crown staying calm, staying in that lane and picking up CS. And another engaged Sejuani ult doesn't connect, but it still does a good job zoning out the enemy team. And Ruler doing free damage on that Tristana. Never a good thing.
Yeah, and Longzhu down a couple thousand gold at this point, but they get a favorable fight here. Nice Cataclysm by Cuz, and then Prey unleashes a nice feather pullback, and they get 4 kills on that one. Here comes Longzhu, Ruler the only surviving member on Samsung. So cue the comeback concept.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, I read his lips as well.
Read his lips, nice, me too. And then they go straight for the Baron, of course, as you do after you win a team fight. Cuz goes in on Crown, he flashes out of the Cataclysm, and then all of a sudden, turns around by Quarterfinals on that Recon engage. Ruler sitting in the back, doing all kinds of damage with that Tristana.
Yeah, and they get a 2-0 there. That was a 4 for 5. Cuvée, or 4 versus 5. Cuvée wasn't even there. His teleport was down. That turns into a Baron for Samsung. They demolish that fight down a member.
Yeah, that's impressive stuff. And again, Cuvée, not entirely having great performance on the Kin, but still his team performing very well. Samsung, great team fighter, and there's a Crown picking up the Baron.
Yeah, and then pretty much from that, they would get an Elder Dragon after that, knock down 3 inhibs. I mean, not going to have much of a chance with Elders and Barons and no inhibs left. So Samsung eventually going to close this one out. And we got to highlight an Ohm Wrecker in this game.
Hey.
We didn't actually have it there, but he did use it on 2 turrets, and it blocked 2 whole turret shots.
Wow, that's a game changer. They probably wouldn't be able to close that game if not for the Ohm Wrecker.
Absolutely not. So Samsung takes game 1. High fives all around. They take a 1-0 lead. And really solid game overall from Samsung, and some uncharacteristic things from Longzhu in that first game.
Yeah, and the main one for me is BDD's over-aggression at times. Again, everyone kind of calls him this KDA player kind of thing, and in this game, that was kind of thrown out the window. He was still trying to make plays, but ended up costing his team because it was him overexerting himself, too much pressure, flashes forward that eventually cost his team some map pressure and a couple kills as well.
Yeah, and really just kudos to Crown in that game because, as we mentioned, he was down a heavy amount of CS, got first blooded. He was at one point 2 levels behind BDD in that game, but just kind of sat there, farmed. It's pretty easy to farm on Malzahar. Throw out your dot there and then just watch all the minions die. But yeah, eventually coming back into that game and actually pulling ahead in CS for BDD, that is very impressive, and clearly he didn't tilt in that game.
No, he definitely didn't. And this is kind of what you expect from Samsung when they win these games, is drawn out, and then you let your team fighting do the work. Even in 4v5 situations, their team fighting came out on top. They protected Ruler, and then some good stuff from Cuvée. Not necessarily hitting his ultimates, but still zoning out the enemy with that huge AoE. Just all kinds of AoE coming out of Samsung with the Recon engage as well. It was not too difficult for Ruler to sit back and pump out damage.
Yeah, and we saw in a lot of the group stage, Ambition was basically invisible for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, and he was definitely more active early on in this game. He helped out Crown in that mid lane when he was struggling, got that first gank on BDD, and then went to the top lane and narrowly avoided disaster against Khan if he was able to turn that 1v2 around, but more aggression there from Ambition. Clearly the leader and shot caller of this team, so getting things going early. It's good for them.
Yeah, definitely getting that 1-0 lead against Longzhu, a team that's not too experienced in the whole best-of-5 scenario. Again, they only had that one against SKT in the finals. They won it 3-1, but it's still limited experience for them. And Samsung comes out in front of this one.
So Longzhu never been behind in a best-of-5 series.
That's right.
Never been behind. Let's jump into game 2, which there was a lot of interesting team comps in this game, in this series, sorry.
It was refreshing.
It was refreshing for sure, and Riot really stepping it up with the fancy camera moves. Oh my gosh, so nice.
And yeah, this one, nothing too crazy, but the Taric in the bottom from Core JJ, I mean, that ultimate in team fights is pretty ridiculous. You just don't take damage for a few seconds. Not bad.
Yeah, it seems pretty balanced. And then a buttload of shields for Prey on that Varus. And look at this! Crown gets first blooded again.
Yeah, once again, it's Crown that gets targeted. From a nice gank from Kaz with the flash EQ. That's beautiful. Again, more beautiful camera work.
Yeah, very nice, right?
Not too bad. And then eventually it would be Ambition to return the favor along with a whole bunch of teammates. Cuvée Shen comes in as well with the Taric. And it's be Crown to pick up the kill on BDD. And then another one, Ambition, taking down Cuz on that Jarvan. A nice 2-0 swing. Gets Crown back into the game after getting first blooded.
Yeah, and Khan a little late to that party there. And again, Ambition focusing on mid, even when Crown's down. Now he's going bottom. Goodbye, Gorilla. Taric ultimate. That is just a clobbering.
Yeah, and Crown had some amazing Talia walls in this game to completely zone out people. This one, a little weird. Teammates gonna walk into each other.
Kissed.
And then Ambition comes out with the ultimate. Again, the Taric ult takes away all incoming damage.
Poor prey.
Look at those Longzhu health bars just ticking down, but no one drops until Crown with a nice Talia wall to cut off BDD. He goes down.
Yeah, that is a questionable flank there from BDD, and then obviously gets stuck with the flash. There's another beautiful wall from Crown, and again, it's BDD. He can't do anything in this fight.
No, he's just stuck on the other side, can't even get into ultimate range, while in the meantime, Samsung takes out everyone in that Dragon Pit. It would eventually be an ace as Crown would take down BDD for the quadra kill.
Yeah, and that was actually a nice Orianna ultimate from BDD, but he's just too late to that fight. It's already over.
Yeah, exactly. And then once again, Crown was fantastic in this game, perfectly using that to zone out the enemies, not letting them escape. And in this time, Crown goes godlike. They would eventually use this to go to that Baron, take it down. They're up quite a big lead.
13-5 in this one, and 100% kill participation for Crown. Just a great game overall for him. And that Taric ult, when you're already ahead, you're already barely doing damage to guys. When you're invincible, you're really not doing any damage. So just so powerful when you're already ahead in this game.
Yeah, and exactly. They take down Prey with that Sejuani ultimate, and then they would eventually just slowly close this one out. Crown pick up a couple more kills to boost that KDA, and then from there, it would be the end for Longzhu. They would drop to 2-0, and again, Crown was kind of the story. He got targeted early, but he definitely performed with some of these ultimates and then pumping out damage with that Talia key.
Yeah, it's pretty much a repeat of that first game. He gets first blooded, falls behind early, and then rebounds and is one of the key guys to get that win for Samsung. And that one was much quicker. I mean, Longzhu didn't really, they had some moments in game one where they won some team fights and were trying to get back into it. They really didn't have a chance in that game too. That was a dominant performance from Samsung, and you've got Ambition on Sejuani again, Ruler on Tristana again. Those have been power picks throughout this entire tournament, and I think it was Deficio on the desk who said, don't let Korean mid laners play Talia. They should be perma-banning it. Maybe that's why.
I mean, when you look at some of these fights, Longzhu literally had zero chance the way people were zoned out with this wall. You turn a 5v5 into a 4v5 or a 3v5, and then, I mean, Samsung with their amazing team fighting is going to win that, no problem. So yeah, it was really a great performance from Crown. He didn't have a great performance in the group stage. Me and you both agreed on that. But all of a sudden, here in this playoffs, he's off to a great start. Sure, he fell behind early in game one, really far behind. Down like 40 CS, just straight up 1v1. Yep. And then got first blooded here. But Ambition did a great job getting him back involved in both games. And then Crown just made plays for the rest of this one.
Yeah, him and Ruler both fantastic in these first two games as the main carries for Samsung. And it's a 2-0 lead, but it has been the year of the reverse sweeps. I mean, it is not uncommon across all regions to see a reverse sweep.
Yeah, it's totally possible. I mean, we've seen it all kinds of times. SKT likes to do it. These Korean teams are definitely capable of pulling off reverse sweeps. So Longzhu, they had their eyes on yet another one this year.
They did indeed. Game 3, I mean, Samsung has had reverse sweeps of their own this year. Another interesting pick, the Lissandra in the middle lane. First time you've seen that at Worlds.
Yeah, and to get it, they had to give up Talia to BDD. So, as you said, don't give up the Talia to Korean mid laners. And Crown seems to have what he thinks is an answer in this Lissandra, which we've yet to see. Very exciting, refreshing picks. Good stuff.
And then look at that. Ambition, Sejuani, Ruler, Tristana. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Cuz, where are you going, buddy? That is walking into 4 guys of Samsung. That's going to be first blood. A lot later than the first 2 games, and this time it wasn't Crown. No, it wasn't Crown. And Khan looks like he might go down, but ults Cuvee. And this is what you expect from Longzhu's top laner. Khan gets that 1v1 kill, leads the tournament in solo kills. And that's what you need to get Longzhu back in this series. Yeah, you'd definitely rather see him on something other than the Cho'Gath. There's the Rakanbo, and Ruler, just with that Taric ultimate. Look at all these shields. He's back to full health. They had him a couple hits away from dead, and then he's just boosted up, and Samsung will run it down. There's a nice wall to save his teammates, but it's too late. A couple of them have gone down. Yeah, it's definitely too much. And then CoreJJ eats a bunch of initiation, but with Shen coming in and Lissandra's TP, all of a sudden this turns into
a massive team fight 5v5, and it would be Samsung once again to turn things around. That Taric ult definitely helped out along with the big Shen shield. So Samsung absolutely wiped the floor with Longzhu in this one. That is a 4-0. It would lead to a Baron, and then they would just keep up the pressure.
Oh, they got Ambition though. Longzhu kills Ambition, so they must be ahead of that. Oh wait, the entire team's bottom. You're losing a couple inhibs, and Ruler is pretty fed on this Tristana yet again. Third game in a row, he puts up a solid performance there. They catch out Ambition again, but this time, the rest of the team's there, and they're ready to fight.
They're definitely ready. They have to wait for this Taric ult to go away before they actually engage. Once it's done, though, great engage from Gorilla with that Rakan to turn things around. Pick up a couple kills. Maybe Longzhu can stick in this, even though they're down about 9,000 gold. And then yet again, similar looking play Ambition deep into that Longzhu jungle. Looks like he's caught up, but again, his team comes around. Sandro for Crown here is going to have a great engage, along with that Taric ultimate. And now you can't kill Crown because, ultimate, Zhonya's, and he's perfectly fine.
And there goes Tristana hopping around killing people, and yet you were waiting. It looked like Longzhu was going to come back into this game and begin the comeback, but I mean, Samsung just too far ahead. And yeah, that Lissandra with a Taric ultimate makes it even more insane. And look at this! Samsung are going to sweep Longzhu. No one expecting that. Most people were thinking the sweep the other way. Samsung looked like they were struggling in the group stage, but a totally different team in a best of 5.
You never know what to expect from Samsung at Worlds. It's just insane when they have this pressure, and I mean, their backs against the wall. They seem to perform at their best. That gauntlet against KT Rolster, no problem. And then here in the group stage, underdogs to Longzhu, but they put on their game face and they showed up. Looked pretty convincing, pretty easy. And it wasn't just the sit back and wait Samsung. They were proactive with the Sejuani and Ambition. They were doing things early, which we didn't see in the group stage. So they definitely brought a new game plan coming into the quarterfinals week, and they took it to Longzhu.
Yeah, I mean, that game 1 was definitely back and forth and maybe could have gone either way, but games 2 and 3 were so dominant for Samsung. Really impressive play by them, and you got to kind of question maybe this is just Longzhu's lack of best of experience, because Samsung was ready to go from the get-go in these games and ready to play in games 2 and 3, and there wasn't much change from Longzhu in a lot of these games. Again, Ambition, Sejuani, 3 games in a row. Ruler, Tristana, 3 games in a row, and both guys performed super well on those champions in each of the 3 games. You got to think Longzhu maybe should have changed their draft up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to think that the mistakes were in their own draft and were just okay to let Samsung keep doing their thing. But, I mean, the Sejuani was a huge factor with long-range initiations and even just zoning with that ultimate. He was a huge factor, early ganks as well. Didn't sit back, didn't wait, just kept it going early. And then Tristana, of course, is one of the safest AD carries you can play right now, especially you add that Taric support. Then you can be pretty aggressive. You just ult, you can jump forward, you can do some damage, and then jump out once you pick up a kill. So like pairing Tristana with Taric makes a lot of sense, especially now when these long extended team fights that revolve around AD carries. If you can just not take damage for a few seconds, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, overall these drafts were terrific from Samsung. And yeah, when you can get all these power picks, that's definitely going to help. And I love that Lissandra pick because, yeah, again, with that Taric ult, just more added invulnerability. It's basically 10 seconds. You can't kill the Lissandra. And she can just basically get her whole cycle of combo like 3 times because she's untargetable for so long. So I like that pick.
Yeah, and they used it really well, fighting in the Longzhu jungle there where you can E in, get a multi-man stun with your W, and then just ult yourself to stay safe while the rest of your team comes in and supports you with that damage, while you just stay invulnerable for about 10 seconds with your own ultimate, Zanya's Taric ulti. It's pretty hard to do anything when you're zoned out like that by that Lissandra.
So this basically completely opens up the bracket now. Obviously now SKT going to be the main favorites, but everyone was looking at, it was basically Longzhu or the field, people were saying, and a convincing 3-0 by Samsung. You got to be scared if you're playing Samsung now.
Yeah, they brought, not only did they bring some fresh stuff, but they didn't really stumble. Game 1 was the only one where it was relatively close against Longzhu, and you would expect close games against a team of Longzhu's caliber, but Samsung did not stumble whatsoever. So they looked really clean. I'd be terrified of Samsung going forward. It looks like they've got a nice road to the finals going on.
Yeah, and Longzhu just really played differently than you're accustomed to seeing. We talked about BDD playing way more aggressive than we're used to. Gorilla and Prey, they couldn't really do much in a lot of these games. I mean, you saw Prey trying his damnedest in a lot of these team fights, and what are you supposed to do when the whole team's Taric ulted? I mean, it's pretty painful to see you trying to last at those guys. So just very surprising performance out of Longzhu.
Yeah, and you praised Ambition. You can also say that he outclassed Cuz to a varying degree.
Absolutely.
Cuz is a guy who, we mentioned coming into this, he's the unproven guy on this roster, basically the one who can make or break what they do. And he just wasn't active enough and wasn't supporting his team while Ambition was making plays across the map. So that was definitely a key matchup in this series.
Yeah, and Longzhu just, they took a back seat in a lot of these games. We're kind of waiting for Samsung to make mistakes, which has been the bane of a lot of teams in that group stage, and why they couldn't get out of groups, is they were just kind of waiting for the game to come to them, and the game came.
It came.
And then the game ended.
Yeah, exactly.
So, whew, that is quite a start to the quarterfinals. I mean, if Longzhu can get upset like that, maybe SKT? Probably not.
It's a bit of a different competition.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? SKT didn't look so hot.
No, they definitely did not. But this is quite the opening for quarterfinals. Pick'ems, good night.
One guy's left.
One guy's left. God bless his soul. We'll see how he does. I'm sure he just picked upsets the whole way, right?
I mean, probably.
Not a bad idea.
I don't think he's going to last too much longer.
I will say, I made a ridiculous pick'em for the knockout stage.
It's messed up.
I got Samsung in there.
You also have Cloud9 going to the finals.
Cloud9 in the finals, they lose to RNG. So we'll see. We'll see. Stage one's complete. We got Samsung going through. But tomorrow, SKT, Misfits. I'm not expecting Misfits to 3-0 SKT as an upset, but I mean, maybe it's going to be closer than people were expecting.
I mean, we're all expecting Misfits in the finals, obviously.
That's true. That's true. We are expecting that. We'll be back tomorrow to go over that Misfits and SKT stuff. But what we also got to talk about, it's not Worlds related, but there's lots of action going on around the NALCS, specifically with Immortals who are not coming back in the LCS.
No, they're not coming back. And initially, the report from a single source was that it was because Overwatch League, Immortals invested $20 million to have this Overwatch League placed in LA, and it seemed like Riot wasn't thrilled with that decision. But you go more in depth and you look into this, and you say, okay, every team had to open their books to Riot. Every single team had to be like, here's our financial situation, here's what we bring in, here's what we spend, yada, yada, yada. And apparently that was also a factor because they just don't have apparently too much revenue coming in, is basically what another report said. So it's not entirely Overwatch based. It's not just like, how dare you invest in a different game? That's not fair. You can't do that. It's actually, wow, maybe they've been losing money for a couple of years, not racking things in, and then you spend $20 million in Overwatch. You're spending in all these different esports. What revenue can you actually bring in to support this Riot franchising system? Yeah,
now I had kind of been like, how the heck does Immortals not get into this? If it is because of that Overwatch thing, that is completely ridiculous by Riot. But it sounds like this is a pretty reliable source that was brought to ESPN that's talking about these financial issues. And that's pretty much the sole reason you could say don't bring them in, is if you're like, well, you're not making money. That's a pretty good reason. That's a pretty good reason to not have them come into the LCS. So if that is true, and it kind of sounds like it is, then yeah, Immortals shouldn't be in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I know they have some financial support, but it's not like CLG with Madison Square Garden. It's not like Echo Fox with Rick Fox and all of his money in his back pocket. So, I mean, I just don't think that they have what these other organizations have, and they don't bring the same things as everyone else does. Yes, they've been a great franchise in North America with their team. They got a lot of fans. They've been performing pretty well over the years. But if you don't bring in money and you don't get these sponsorships to bring in revenue, then it's just not the right fit for Riot. And that doesn't mean you're not like a good choice. It's just you're not a top 10 pick for Riot, because only 10 get it. So maybe Immortals are 11th. They just missed the cut.
Yeah, and especially when there are some of these pretty big name organizations coming involved, like the Warriors and stuff like that. You really have to have an impressive resume to be on here, and I'm impressed Echo Fox made the cut. I mean, I guess, yeah, they're just more financially stable than them. We'll see what happens with FlyQuest. I can't imagine they get it. I can't imagine they get in.
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine they bring in more revenue than the Immortals does.
No way. But, you know, they got some content out there.
They do.
Talked about balls workout videos. They got some.
That stuff is sweet.
They got some champion guides.
Ooh.
I don't know. It's not great. I'll be honest. Sorry, FlyQuest. It's not that great.
Yeah, I don't expect them to get in. But maybe opens the door for G2, FaZe Clan. Definitely a different look in the NALCS.
So assuming Immortals actually is out, which sounds like they are, and let's say FlyQuest doesn't make the cut, because I feel like they probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
That means you've only got 5 returning teams from this year's NALCS, and you're going to have 5 completely new teams.
That's crazy.
That's half the league.
Yeah.
Half the league. Double check that. That is half the league that's going to be totally new guys. And now free agents, you're going to have guys like Xmithy, Paul Belter, Cody's son, Olay, Arrow, Ryu if he's sticking around. I mean, there are going to be some crazy looking teams.
Yeah, it's insane. Lyra, Mike Young. Mike Young, of course.
How could I forget Mike Young?
Yeah, I'm a little offended you did.
My heart. Yeah, I mean, who knows what these teams are going to be. So we will continue to monitor this LCS action. It seems like there's a new team leaving or joining the league every day. I'm sure there'll be news later today about it. And then we'll talk about it tomorrow.
That's right.
Which is when we'll be back. Back tomorrow at a similar time to today, probably between 11 and 12. Depends how many games, really, the SKT Misfits games go. Today was a nice 3-0, so it was pretty manageable.
Yeah.
If it goes to 5 and each game's 50 minutes, which is definitely what's going to happen, SKT and Misfits.
It'll be a little longer.
It'll be a little more stressful, but that should be an interesting one. So we'll be back then to talk about that and any updates on the NALCS franchising, new teams coming in or out. There's a lot of drama going on.
All kinds of
A
crazy.
lot of pitchforks out.
And torches.
I was more like fist bumping, not pitchforks, but...
Well, pitchfork is the club. Sounds safe.
You could probably sneak one in.
I'd be surprised if you could sneak a pitchfork into a club.
Some clubs are a little more...
I'd be terrified.
Yeah, if I saw someone with a pitchfork at a club, I'm getting the hell out of there, man. That sounds scary. We'll be back tomorrow. See you guys around then. Eric Kummel, Matt Hempstead. See you guys then.